I may not personally love summer, but apparently my deck collection does. It's the most represented season on my shelves, and today we're going to pull all those out and go through them with you on my summer deck list choices. The first deck I have here is Zeke's Arcana. Now, Zeke's Arcana is one of the most unique decks that I own. The colors and vibrancy of the colors, the saturation, completely scream summer. And it feels like trying to eat a grape popsicle on the hottest day of the year. It's delicious, but it's a sticky mess. That's kind of the color saturation. Just reminds me of those colorful popsicles that we all ate as kids. While this deck is now officially out of print, unfortunately, I have seen some copies floating around. So in that sense, I'm sure that you could still come across a copy somewhere. But I've really been loving this deck. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I've already been using this deck recently, and I've been having trouble putting it down, but in the best way. The next deck we have here is Cowgirls and Aliens Oracle. Now, when this deck first came out, maybe a year and a half ago, it really hit the community by storm, and for a very good reason. Sometimes I feel like Oracle decks can blend into one another and they all kind of start feeling like the same. I don't know if you guys experience that as well, but in recent years there's even been like a prominent art style of these Oracle decks, kind of like that Danielle Noel digital collage, blended digital collage kind of styles, if you know what I'm talking about. But this one definitely stands out with all the unique characters, the archetypes, and the colors. I love the dynamic between the cowgirls and aliens, which in this deck are or could be considered the two different suits. It's fun and it's funky and it's really perfect for summertime or any time that you need a little pep talk. Next, I have the Desert Illuminations Tarot. The version that I have is the first edition copy with the orange and purple backs. So along with Zeke's Arcana, you can't get more quintessentially summer than this deck. And I actually like to pair Zeke's Arcana, Cowgirls and Aliens, and the Desert Illuminations deck here together. They really are very cohesive in their color story. But the Southwest is a prominent theme, or is the theme, I would say, and location for this deck. And of course, the Southwest in America is a freaking desert after all, and there's nothing more summery than a desert, in my opinion. Now, don't be fooled by some of the oddball qualities and characters of the art. This deck has a lot of grit and culture, and I'm really honored to have it here in my collection. And although it looks very fun and whimsical, and it has some aliens in it, this deck can take you deeper. So just because the face of the cards are fun and funky, the messages I receive are actually very meaningful and have a lot of depth to them. The next deck is the Wild Whispers Oracle. So similar to Desert Illuminations, this deck is literally inspired by the desert, and you can tell just how much importance the desert and that place has for the artist Nat Gersberger. I literally can feel that through the cards. It just seeps through each image, and it is further punctuated by the amazing guidebook that I talk about all the time. I love the vector art inspired style of these cards. It's very minimalistic, but the color choices are very bold and eye-catching, and it gives you a lot to look at, in my opinion. The next deck is the Napo Tarot with these really fun backs that I love so much. The Napo Tarot has a lot of culture and personality packed into its RWS clone cards. This isn't a deck that I have worked with too much in my personal practice because I really want to honor its culture by doing some research before diving headfirst. But if that's not something you need to do to work with certain decks, then I think this one is a great deck, not only for the summer season, but for beginners as well, especially here on the minors with the keywords. I think that could be very helpful to beginners. Just a note though, for those who are beginners, while the keywords are nice and a reference point, they are just that. So if along the line in your studies of tarot you come across a different keyword that matches better with the Two of Cups here, then go with that. You can always go with your intuition and what you feel matches the best. This is also a deck that is still in print and mass market, so finding a copy is very accessible. If you're a little bit like me and you like to have vintage copies, this is actually a deck that's pretty easy to find. Next we have Tarot del Fuego, which is Tarot of Fire, Fire Tarot. This deck is the climactic point of summer in my opinion. School is still out and pool days are becoming essential to making it through the day in a very cool way. That's what this deck feels like to me. It has a lot of passion and a lot of vibrancy and a lot going on the cards, as you can see. And I love that it has a lot packed into it. I love the attitude and the pizzazz of this deck because it really does stand out from the crowd. And to me, if I had to personify this deck, it would be that radical friend that you always wish you could be like, but you know you just never will be. And you just kind of look up to them and admire them because they're so punchy and they are passionate and they go after what they want and they're outspoken. But at the same time, they kind of help you find your voice in a way. This is what this deck reminds me of if it were a person. Now, the next deck I have is the Radiant Wilds Tarot. This deck is created by the same artist as the Wild Whispers Oracle, mentioned earlier in this video, and it makes sense why this deck also fits into my summer list. I feel like if you need a better descriptor and insight into using this deck, Kate from Moonflower Moments here on YouTube has spoken about this deck and how she uses it. And honestly, she is so poetic and intentional with the way that she describes not only this deck, but each and every other deck in her collection that she just might make you buy it. It's definitely happened to me before where Kate has made me buy it, but I just think this is a really wonderful choice for a summer deck. I think that if I had to choose like the top deck of summer, it would definitely be between Radiant Wilds and Zeke's Arcana for me. So next I have the Rediscovered Classic Tarot. This is a deck that is newer to my collection, but I picked this specific deck because of the beautiful greenery that happens in many of the cards in the backgrounds. And of course right now it's not going to show you too many. This is a good one. Queen of Swords is a good one. But many of the backgrounds when a character is outside, it is very lush and green, just like this. And it reminds me of summertime in June when everything is very freshly bloomed and it's not scorched by the sun just yet, where we can still smell the earthiness of spring, but the heat of what's to come is starting to be on the horizon. That's just kind of how this deck feels for me in the times that I have used it and flipped through it. Okay, the second to last deck that I have for you today, and I would say looking at my entire collection, this is the first deck that I purchased that I ever thought, this is definitely a summer deck, and that would be the White Newman Tarot. I have edged mine to match the color on the back of the cards, which I don't know, I feel like, I don't know how, but I found like the perfect color somehow. But the White Newman was my very first deck, as I mentioned, that I really considered to be a summer deck. The reason why is it's in the color story, and sometimes between the glossy cardstock and the very vibrant colors that are used, it looks like you could just tip a card and drink the water right from the card into your mouth, or literally step into a lush green card to meet this character, or feel the hot wind blowing on your face as you interact with a card that is in the desert. It's just a very immersive deck to me, and I can feel all the senses of all the different cards, and there's no other deck that I really have that experience with, and it's very unique in that way. And this is the deck that is also one that represents the zodiac sign of Aries best to me. And while Aries is technically the start of springtime, which has always confused me, by the way, because of all the fire signs, potentially. I know everyone, like Leo, I feel like is very much the hot spitfire type, right? Where it just feels like the middle of summer, it's very hot, dog days of summer. But for some reason, Aries also feels temperature-wise very like hot and fiery. I don't know, that's just my association with it. Anyway, so that's why this deck is definitely more of a summer deck for me. And finally, to round out this list, I have Tarot of the Crystal Whirl. The best way I can describe this deck is with these two words, and I've put a lot of thought into it. And those words are avant-garde summer. This deck is really quirky and different and not afraid to shed its clothes when the weather gets too hot to bear. It's the friend that's always bare and brutally honest with you. Message-wise, I find that this deck is a close and dear friend. So while it might look brash or unkempt at times, I find that it always delivers messages with the very best of intentions. You can look at each character in this and you see the realness in them. They're not perfect beings. They are who they are. And I really like that. It helps me step into my true authentic self when I use it. It reminds me that it's okay to be different, to choose a different path, and it really makes me feel safe in that way. But it has a lot of personality and personalities within the cards, and it's just a really nice one. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I always love putting together these fun listicle videos for you. I think it's a great way to look and interact with our collections a little bit differently with a different frame of reference. And so if you like that style video, please give this video a like, subscribe, stick around a while, and until next time, see you around.